So before we get to the post game, I just want to update people on at least what I'm seeing. We're gonna suss this out more in the break before the post game. But Jeff Stein reporting um, some good. I mean, Bernie Sanders statement: President-elect Biden has put forth a very strong first installment of an emergency relief plan. A first installment. So Bernie there saying we're going to get two stabs. I think we'll see. AOC is also saying we need the full 2,000, not the $1,600 or $1,400 top up. We're going to look into more what Biden's relief package is. It's hard to kind of glean these up together as we're doing a show, but we'll see.
No, exactly. We'll definitely get to that in the post game. And before we jump over, I just want to get this in the main show real quick, just an update real briefly on Prop 22, because it's an interesting story here. Obviously, Prop 22 is one of the most, I think, is going to be one of the most long-lasting events of 2020. Just what that has done for labor law and just the huge victory that these corporations, Uber and Lyft, among the other gig corporations, got. But I want to start with some good news here, because we all are looking for places to fight, and this is a huge opportunity to continue the fight against Prop 22. A group of, actually, let me put this out for everybody, but basically there is going to be a significant legal challenge against Prop 22. This is in The Verge. Uber and Lyft drivers in California sue to overturn Prop 22 ballot measure. A group of Uber and Lyft drivers in California filed a lawsuit Tuesday in state Supreme Court to overturn a ballot measure that allows the companies to continue treating its workers like independent contractors. The drivers claim that Prop 22, which was approved, blah, 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 everyday rideshare drivers like me struggle to make ends meet because companies like Uber and Lyft prioritize corporate profits over our well-being. With Prop 22, they're not just ignoring our health and safety, they're discarding our state's constitution. So the drivers are challenging the constitutionality of Prop 22. They're being supported by the SEIU, the California Labor Federation. So that's an exciting development, and hopefully we'll be able to see some kind of pushback, because everyone knows who listens to this show, one Prop 22 is an absolute disaster, and it was a bill that was essentially bought by Uber and Lyft, among other corporations, who pumped in over $200 million into it, which is just unheard of sum for a ballot initiative.
Yeah, I saw this great reply to a tweet here on this topic from a driver, or someone identified as a driver. So Jathan Sadowski, so not shocking that Uber and Lyft lied. Oh, sorry, they strongly implied about not raising prices if Prop 22 passed. They planned on activating the next phase in the monopoly playbook this whole time. Dirty Hippie writes, I'll go one further. As a driver, I saw better pay in the months leading up to the vote, and riders were being charged more. The fear of more expensive rides was leveraged, and recency bias affected vote for sure. Drivers thought less pay, riders thought more money. Which is like, I mean, I would love to see more reporting on that, because that seems like exactly the type of thing you would do if you had this amount of data to basically game your worker.
And this amount of data to basically, set the table. To give people kind of perspective as to what their future is. And yeah, as y'all saw in the tweet, despite the fact that Uber and Lyft ran on this idea that if they don't pass Prop 22, they're going to have to increase prices. Well, they get what they wanted. They spent $200 million to get that. And guess what? They continue with their plans to raise prices. It's going to be higher prices for rides, and also higher prices for things like Uber Eats, which I think they're increasing by like $2. So again, like, these companies make so much money off of the backs of all of these workers, and they profit immensely from this kind of shift that they're doing to try to change the way that we categorize workers. And it's all BS what we're getting from them about like the actual cost of that, because they make an incredible amount of money in the first place. They're just trying to make sure that they can squeeze as much as possible. And not only does this environment affect the workers who work directly for those companies, we're also starting to get reports that now that Prop 22 is in effect, that people in other industries who aren't gig workers are losing their jobs. Because let me tell you one quick thing about capitalism. all workers, because the way that the system works, it makes working people compete against each other for jobs and resources, and you have to compete for those jobs and resources from the people who own everything, right? And the people who own everything in this system are always going to go for the cheapest labor that they can get. And when you create a two-tiered system like they have been able to create in California now, any capitalist worth their salt, and I'm sorry, they're all going to do this. There is no person who's going to be like, you know what, I'm just going to morally just lose money, right? That's not how the system
The
works.
only ones that will do that will be ones who make a media career out of like talking about how they did it.
Well, it's also like if they do that, then they're not playing by the rules of the system. They're being bad at what their job is in the system, which is to make as much money as possible. And hey, I think it's great for people to make individual choices, not to abuse people, right? I think that's a great moral thing. But we have to talk about the large numbers of the system, the way that it's going to work functionally. And you end up, even if you do these kind of things at the beginning, right? You say, look, I'm not going to take advantage of this now cheaper labor market that's available to me. You put yourself at such a competitive disadvantage that eventually you get forced to do it. But let's get to this story real quick. In San Diego, delivery drivers laid off as Prop 22 takes effect. So this tells a story of a 27-year-old worker, Matthew, who works at a San Diego Vons, which I believe is a supermarket there. And basically they thought that they were going to, I mean, this is so cruel. This is Matthew, what he told the news source KPBS.
Oh,
I thought so everyone got pulled into a all staff meeting, and he says, I thought they were going to give us a bonus or a raise or something like that. After these people have been risking their lives to deliver groceries to people. But in fact, he found out that instead of a raise, Matthew and the other drivers were told their jobs were being eliminated, and they were going to be replaced by third-party gig workers at the end of February.
They just told them that?
They just told them that. And, it's a disgusting story. And, Matthew, all solidarity to you and all of the workers there. He was mentioning in that story that he's, the breadwinner for his family. But it's exactly how these corporations are going to operate. Now that they have access to cheap labor, and now that you've created a gig economy, right, that can cover so many different kinds of workers, of course, these corporations are going to move away from treating people like employees, right? Which was already precarious enough, right? People who aren't unionized, it was already precarious enough. It's going to get worse. So we need to, support this fight to overturn Prop 22 and be really vigilant across the country, because this is the move. I talked about in a Jackman video that went up earlier this week and I talked about this on the show too, the new rules from the Department of Labor, what they're doing to basically, kneecap front of the house workers in restaurants. The new way that capitalists are trying to squeeze from workers is to reclassify working, who is a worker, and to try to reclassify them as independent contractors, because that means that they can just negate 150 years of labor organizing. And we have to be really vigilant about that.
Yeah. It's very disgusting. Yeah.